Good morning, Nachum. Good Erev Shabbos, everybody. Tomorrow we have the privilege of reading Parshas Nasso. According to the Chinuch, Nasso contains 18 mitzvos, 7 positive and 11 restrictions. By the way, keep in mind, last Shabbos was the second day of Shavuos for us. Last Shabbos was Parshas Nasso for Eretz Yisrael, having had one day of Shavuos last Friday. So, we are at the moment a week behind Eretz Yisrael, and I can only say that we have, the energy of Shavuos with us, and please God, let's hope that that energy, as we'll talk about, please God, at the end, should keep us going and on a high. Okay, I'd like to speak a little bit about the Nazir, right? And the Nazir is the individual who, as we know, takes upon himself 3 restrictions. But before we even get to the restrictions, let's talk about what the term Nazir means. So if you look in the Ibn Ezra, at the very beginning of Parshas Nazir, this is chapter 6, and the Ibn Ezra says, what does it mean? First of all, Ish ki yafli. When the Torah introduces the mitzvah of Nazir, so the Torah says, a man or woman who shall yafli, literally take a vow. Now what's this vow of? Lindor neder Hashem. The yafli is something of a wonder, a pella. Like, forgive me, the bracha we recite each time we're privileged to have our healthy body use the bathroom. Rofei kol basar umafli. It's a wonder. So here, it's a wonder, this person who takes a neder of abstinence, now lazir, for the purpose of, and he's motivated by Hashem, for the sake of Hashem. So he tells us, number 1, that the term nezer can mean either a crown, and therefore the nazir becomes someone who is worthy of wearing a crown. Why? Ki rov ha'olam, says the Ibn Ezra, holchim achar ta'avasam. Most people go after their natural desires and appetites. Here, this person is abstaining from wine, number 1, cutting his hair, number 2, which means that he's not going to, quote, look so good, and finally, he's not going to come in contact or under the same roof as a dead body. So, on the one hand, listen carefully, says and continues the Ibn Ezra that Nazir is Nodar Lios Nazir. What does that mean? That he has taken upon himself this idea of being a Nazir, which means to abstain. And he brings from Parshas Emor, where the Torah tells us that Aaron and his children, when they are in a state of tumah, in a state of impurity, so they are to distance themselves from the korbanos. Listen to the language. V'yenozru bikodshe b'nei Yisrael. They shall withdraw from the holiness, meaning from the korbanos, at the time of their impurity. And earlier, at the end of Parshas Mitzorah, in the Maftir, chapter 15, verse 31, V'hizartem, the same root as Nazir, as Bnei Yisrael mitumosam, separate the children of Israel from their contamination. So on the one hand, Nazirus means to separate. On the other hand, it means a crown. And basically, the two go very well together. He, she, because a Nazir is a male, and a woman can be a Nizirah. So he or she who abstain for the sake of God, giving something up, that's worthy of wearing a crown. Wow, we respect that person. That person is put on that kind of pedestal. Now, note, we know that there are three, as we mentioned earlier, restrictions for the Nazir, the Yayin, which is one. This is found back, once again, in chapter 6 of Bamidbar, verse 3. Yayin b'sheich or Yazir, okay, from either new or aged wine he shall abstain. And next, the Torah tells us in verse 5, Kol yimei neder nizro, and by the way, the minimum Nazir is 30 days. He could take it on for longer. But now, during this time, Ta'ar lo yavor al rosho, he's not to cut his hair, okay? Now, during this time, okay, Kadosh yeh gadel pera sa'ar rosho. He should be, quote, holy, and as we know, Kedusha is to abstain. Then, we're told, L'oviv ulimo l'chivach u'solui tamah, he's not to come in contact with the dead. Ki nezer elokov al rosho. Oh, because the literally crown of God is on his head. Now that's said after the part that he can't come into contact with the dead. So think about it very quickly. The first two are a fulfillment of the abstaining from wine, abstaining from cutting his hair. The third part, by not coming in contact with the dead, he's like a Kohen. There's an elevation in him. And therefore, at that point, the Torah says, whoa, Nazir, the crown of God is upon him. So now we have to ask a very basic question. Being a Nazir, is it quote-unquote good or is it bad? So first of all, there's a very famous machlokes between the Rambam and Ramban on this very point. What is the basis of the machlokes? At the end of his or her Nazirus, the Torah says they are to bring various korbanos, and one of the korbanos that the Nazir brings at the conclusion of their Nazirus is a korban chatos, a sin offering. Now, the question is, this is found in Pasuk Yudalid, why? What did the Nazir do to deserve and have to bring a sin offering? So fascinating, the Rambam writes, are there not sufficient restrictions in the Torah? Are there not sufficient prohibitions that this man or woman had to go and add more? So because they restricted themselves from God's beautiful world and the bounty that he has given us, that in of itself smacks of a negativity, and therefore they are to bring a korban chatos, a sin offering. The idea that we are to enjoy life, we are not to abstain. Comes along the Ramban and says, this person took upon themselves restrictions for the sake of God, and therefore holding a more personal, accountable relationship with Hashem. When do they bring the korban chatos? At the end of their nazirus. How dare you go back? You were on a high level, and now you shouldn't go back. So that is the reason for the chatos according to the Ramban. The Rambam says, as we pointed out differently, so is it good, is it not good? It depends on the person, on the time, on the circumstances. And now, let's move on to a very famous, important Rashi whereby the Torah tells us that the Parsha of Nazirus is found right next to the chapter dealing with the Sota, the suspected adulteress. So Rashi says at the beginning of chapter 6, verse 2, Lama nismacha, quoting from the Gemara Sota, Lama nismacha Parshas Nazir le Parshas Sota. Why is the chapter of the Nazir juxtaposed, put immediately following that of the Sota? Lomalach comes to teach us, Shekol Roa Sota Bekilkula, whoever actually sees the Sota literally in her state of Kilkula, of her being literally, I'll use demolished, but that's a very general term. Physically, socially, in every which way. He sees the Sota in this state, Yazir Atzmo Minayayin. He's too, wait a minute, he sees this and he realizes, as Rashi continues, Sheyayin Mevi Lidei Niyov, because drinking wine in the wrong place with the wrong people can bring to niyuv, immorality. Therefore, one who sees the sota has to tell themselves, oh no, this won't happen to me. And the way he makes sure it doesn't happen to him is by becoming a Nazir. Now one could ask the obvious question, if they saw it, wouldn't that be enough of a deterrent? And the Torah is teaching us a very significant point, and that is, an individual can undergo an exceptional spiritual high. The spiritual high could be a kumzitz. The spiritual high could be an uplifting shiur, could be an uplifting drasha. You were inspired by your rabbi's talk on Shabbos. Now what? After a while, unfortunately, it dissipates. After a while, the high that you're on, you're up all night, Shavuos night learning. Wow! What are we going to do to, quote, concretize this? Because as we can see from the Torah, wow, could you imagine what Kriyas Yamsuf was like? And yet, 3 days later, after Kriyas Yamsuf, what does the Torah tell us? Ouch. That the people are, for lack of a better way of saying it, I don't want to use the word belly aching, but they certainly are complaining. Okay? Now, the idea is, you and I, and it's very easy for you and I to say this, that after all, we sit, we cross our legs, we talk, and we say, how could they not have been so inspired that having seen and personally experienced Kriyas Yamsuf, the last thing you would expect is chapter 16, verse 2, the entire assembly of the children of Israel complained against Moshe and Aaron. And what do they say? Amazing. If only we had died in the land of Egypt, as we sat by the pot of meat, when we ate bread to satisfy. For you have taken us to this desert to kill us by famine. Now wait a minute. It's easy for us to say, couldn't they have just a little bit more faith? Do you think Hashem would have split the sea for them? Come on, and not provide for them? Did he not tell Moshe there would be a Maimad Har Sinai? How could they not have faith and trust in God? So it's very easy for us to say that about them. But the answer that we see from this is that being on a great high requires that you do something to keep it coming. The Sota makes a great impression, but what do you have to do? You have to do something like a Nazir. So, let's think very quickly. Shavuos is just behind us, and we need to concretize, to keep it going. There's something special from Shavuos. We read now, Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Chasadim. We were up all night studying Torah. Listen carefully. How do you keep it going? My friends, I don't know what you listen to when you're in your car, but I can only tell you what I listen to when I'm in my car. It just so happens whether you go to YU Torah, OU Torah, and I don't mean to offend anybody for not including their favorite Torah, but there is so much Torah out there that I wish it upon you that you say, wow, how fortunate I was, quote, stuck in traffic, and therefore I was able to enjoy another segment of a shiur. Think about that. You'll keep Shavuos going. Plug your phone in such a way that you will be able to hear Torah when you drive. Avodah. Take away from Shavuos how important the Tehillim of David HaMelech are. The late Rav Pinkus said that a perek of Tehillim is like dynamite under a building. We don't realize the power. Say it slowly, one a day, if not more. But say it slowly, say it with kavanah, connect with David HaMelech. And finally, Chesed. We read the book of Rus because she was completely Gomeles Chesed. That we should try to find ways before you go to shop. Make a phone call to someone who is a shut-in. They can't go. What can I buy you? Just the call, but mean it, because they might surprise you and say, okay, I need X, Y, and Z. Be prepared to do it. But what a zechus. You're going to uplift the mitzvah of for taking care of just yourself, your family, but taking care of this additional person. Number one. Number two, try to be creative in your chesed. What can I do for this person that's going to give them a lift, to cheer them up? Wow. This is taking Shavuos with us. May we be zocher to learn the positive inspiration from the Torah. Shavuos, which was such a high for Klal Yisrael. Think about it. All over the world, the Jews were up studying Torah. How many thousands came to the Kotel and were mispalel at the Kotel. Ashreinu matuv chalkenu. Let's stay on the bandwagon and let's keep Shavuos going. Please God, keeping us till the next Yom Tov. Shabbat shalom to all.